Hello there, everyone, and welcome back to the GSL-English Podcast. My name is, of course, Gideon, and I am here to help you speak more natural, fluent, and confident English. And in this week's episode, we are going to talk about something very important. We're going to talk about something that might actually be affecting you directly. Or there's a possibility it's something that has affected you all of your life. And that is shyness, being shy. So the main focus of today's episode is an absolutely fantastic article from medium.com or .co.uk. I'll put the link in the description below. But we're going to look at how we can be less shy. And what's brilliant about the points that we are going to look at is, of course, we're going to apply it to the English language, how we can be less shy when speaking in English. But also, this transfers over to our native language, to us generally as people and our personalities. And some of the points in this article are absolutely fantastic. So, I really think you will enjoy this, even if you're perhaps saying, no, I'm not a shy person at all. Well, let's just see. Bear with me, stick with me, and I know that some of these points will benefit you. So that's what we're going to talk about. But first, I've got to be honest with you. I was very, very close to not recording this episode. So as you know, at the moment, I have promised that I will release podcast twice a week throughout August, Wednesday and Sunday. It is now Tuesday evening, and I like to be ahead. I don't like to record podcasts the day before they're supposed to be released, but just in case there's any technical issues, it just gives me time to prepare and sort it out. And that's usually what I like to do, but time has run away with me this week. Yesterday was an absolutely manic day at work, had no time to record. And today has been the same. I did plan on recording this a lot earlier in the day, but you know what it's like when you're busy. Time just runs away. And I was very close to just not recording an episode this week. You're lovely people. I thought they'll understand. They won't have a problem with it. So I was sitting on the sofa after determining that I wasn't going to record the podcast. And I was sitting there and I just thought, no, I made a promise. I'm going to stick to it. So bear with me with this podcast. Bear with me with this episode. If I make a few mistakes, just let it go because I'm a tad tired. As life is. It's tiring, isn't it? But as I said, what we are going to talk about today, I think is extremely helpful. It's something that many people battle with, but with varying degrees, being shy. If we're shy, we don't like the spotlight on us. We don't like the attention. We would prefer just to kind of blend into the background and not be noticed. And it's very true that shyness is often very circumstantial. It depends on the circumstances we're in. For example, personally, if I'm with my close friends, with people I feel comfortable with, I'm not shy. But put me in a group of completely new people, especially a larger group, outside of teaching in a social environment, well, I do find that I naturally get a little bit more shy. I try and draw into the background a little bit, not to be seen as much, and just kind of observe. And there's not a problem with that, is there? It's not a problem with being shy, but sometimes it is a factor that can hold us back, particularly when we want to speak English. We want to improve our English, but shyness is the wall between us and speaking. So we want to try and break that down. So that's what we're going to look at today. As I say, it's a brilliant article. Click the link in the description if you would like to visit the website. But of course, if you are watching on YouTube, you can follow along with me. I'm going to go through the introduction, then it kind of dives into reasons that why we might feel shy, but also how we can overcome it. Okay, so yeah, you know the drill. Before we get into it, if you feel like you would like to, please grab a cup of tea, grab a drink, grab some food, and sit back and just relax. Just enjoy this episode with me. So here we go. We're just going to read the introduction here and then break it down a little bit. But as we go through, be honest with yourself and see if any of this particularly applies to you. Are you like most people who have quite a fun and interesting vibe when you are alone, but struggle when you step out there? You find yourself thinking, I don't always have something interesting to say, or worrying about if people will like you. Or maybe you worry about saying the wrong thing or something that will offend someone. You think you are not interesting enough for others to want to hear you out. Or that you don't know how to have conversations with people. Or you feel anxiety. These are thoughts that run in the minds of shy people every time they think of meeting people. I have been there and I know exactly how that can feel. But we are not here to stew over the struggles, but to find solutions to this limiting behaviour. Yes, shyness is just a behaviour and it is learned. That means it can be unlearned. So I thought it's a very honest introduction there. You know, I don't know about you, but perhaps when you're on your own, you think, you know, you've got quite a fun, interesting vibe, got a great personality, but when you step out there socially, particularly in your second language or your third language, any language that isn't your native language, you struggle to let that personality come through in social settings. And it's true, isn't it? Maybe you ask yourself these questions. I know I sometimes do. You know, well, what I say isn't going to be of any interest to anyone. Why would somebody want to hear what I say? What if I offend someone? What if I say the wrong thing? Or perhaps you just feel anxious and your mind just goes crazy in social settings. So because of that, you draw back. You just try and blend in so nobody observes you. And I think many of us can relate to that. I think perhaps particularly different points in life, we feel more shy. And we're going to look at some reasons as to why we would feel shy. Now, please don't get this article wrong. The purpose of it isn't that we come away from this being the life of the party. You know, that's not always good. You know, nothing wrong with being reserved by nature, being a listener and just thinking before you speak. There's nothing wrong with that. But what we're looking at is that overwhelming anxiety that stops us from being ourselves. That is what shyness is. So that's what we're going to look at. So let's dive into some reasons as to why we might feel shy. The first is that we might be living too much in our head. Shy people live in their heads, overthinking everything, and this often leads to paralysis. It's true, isn't it? Shy people overthink everything. Overthink what they are going to say, what they have said, perhaps facial expressions, the way they're standing, what you're doing with your hands. I've been there. You just overthink absolutely everything. And that overthinking, as it says, leads to paralysis. Paralysis is a lack of movement, a lack of action. So because of that overthinking, just overthinking absolutely everything, we paralyze ourselves in social situations. We're too much in our head. Maybe that's one of the reasons. Or perhaps it's environments, culture, and family. Some people grew up in a culture that encouraged being reserved, quiet, unopinionated in the name of humility, and shunned being outspoken and expressive. Maybe, that's something that you've experienced. Perhaps it was kind of just drummed into you, to keep your opinions to yourself. And as we say here, there's nothing wrong, I don't think, with being a little bit reserved, being more quiet. But, just not letting your personality come out. And perhaps that's something that we've experienced, because of the way we were raised. We have more of a tendency not to speak because of that. Or perhaps not to express our opinions. Or it says here, hyper-isolation. This is a really interesting one. Too little social exposure. We are living more and more isolated lives. Is it any surprise that when you step out to meet other people, you feel like you don't belong? That's an interesting point, and I think COVID had a social effect on all of us, didn't it? And some of us are still dealing with that. You know, how that affected our social skills, but also we live in a digital world now where communication is very much not verbal or in person. It's written, isn't it? And then that creates a bit of a difficulty because we're not using our social skills. We're not put into social situations as much as before because we don't need to be. And that leads to hyper isolation, isolating ourselves from social exposure because we can. I don't know if you can relate to any of these. I know I certainly can. This next one's really interesting. The spotlight effect. The spotlight effect is the perception that everyone is looking at you and judging you. Because shy people have a hyper focus on themselves and judge themselves too much, they think that other people are focused on them as much. Not true. Other people are most often also worrying about themselves. This is true, isn't it? That it's not saying this, I don't feel in an arrogant way or a self-obsessed way, but when we are shy, we sometimes have that spotlight effect where we perceive that everybody is looking at everything we're doing, what our hands are doing, the words that we say, and we feel that people are judging us because we're so used to judging ourselves. We think, well, if I judge myself this much, if I'm judging what I'm doing with my hands, my body position, what I say, then everyone else must be. So we feel that in social situations, even if we are not the main focus or the one speaking, the spotlight is always on us, like at a theatre. But I love the point at the end here. That's simply not true. The reality is, even if somebody is coming across confident, the life of the party, they're often most worrying about themselves, how they are coming across. But it's that spotlight effect, isn't it? We put all of the spotlight on us. Or our shyness may be due to this: unpleasant past experiences. If something is unpleasant, it's not nice. Some people are shy today because they had an unpleasant experience in the past when they put themselves out there, put themselves out there into social situations, perhaps circumstances or situations that they weren't necessarily comfortable with. They might have experienced rejection, embarrassment, criticism, negative judgment, and then they retracted, drew back. And maybe this was it. We weren't necessarily shy before, or we could work through the shyness, but now because of a bad or an unpleasant experience, perhaps somebody embarrassed us in a social situation, perhaps particularly from a learner of English's point of view, perhaps we were criticized. Well, that was it. We retracted. We drew back and just let that shyness kind of overcome us. So, many reasons why we might feel shy. Living in our heads, the way we were raised, our environment, isolation, the spotlight effect, or simply unpleasant past experiences. And maybe you can relate to those. But as it said in the introduction, the purpose of this isn't to stew, to just talk about why we feel shy and the fact that we are shy. We're going to look at a solution. And as we go through this, try and think about your own personality. Don't think of someone else that you can imitate. We sometimes do that, don't we? We think of someone else that we want to be like. As we go through this, think of your own personality, perhaps your own English, and what you can bring out in yourself, not trying to copy or imitate another. We all have our own personalities, and that's what makes us amazing as humans. So what we want to do is try and unlock that in social situations. Overcome the shyness and let people see the fantastic personality that we have. So, good solutions: how to be the fun person you are in private, in public. So we'll just go through this first point and then we'll break it down. Stop the hyper-focus on yourself and focus on the environment and on the other person. When you are somewhere, be there. Don't be in your head. Focus on the environment and on other people. For instance, if you walk into a dinner party, start commenting on what you like about the place. I love the lighting in this place. I think the decor is amazing. Have you seen the flowers? This is a great way to start a conversation with the person next to you, and the sooner you do it, the easier and the better. When awkwardness has already set in, it is hard to break. So, drop it as soon as you walk in or are taking your seat. Hesitation is not your friend here. Pro tip: talk to the other person as if they are a long-time friend you already knew, and they will become such in a second. So, take some of this with a pinch of salt. Okay, for example, that last point, if you're talking to a lifelong friend, you might open up about your deepest feelings and, ask some perhaps more soul-searching questions. Somebody you just met, maybe we don't want to do that. But it's the principle that we want to take away from this. And that is, get out of your head. We need to get out of our heads and focusing on ourselves and just be in the moment. Focus on where you are. Focus on the environment, the other people. And it gives an example of walking into a dinner party. This can apply to any situation. A great tip here, just talk about what you like about the place. Perhaps if you walk into a restaurant with a great atmosphere, walk in, what a brilliant atmosphere. This looks cool. Or perhaps you walk into a restaurant and it's dull, it's empty. This looks a bit dull in here. Just let your personality come out. Don't force it. But whatever you're thinking, just say it about the place. It's a great way of breaking the ice. And once you've done that, once you've made that first comment, it's like you've just taken shyness and just pushed it away. And the extra comments that you give, the extra thoughts and opinions, and the more times you let your personality come out, it's just like you're pushing that shyness away. It's the enemy. We don't want that. And as it said here, when awkwardness has set in, it's quite hard to break. So, at the beginning of a social event, perhaps we're getting ready, we're going out. We've got to try and not let that shyness creep in before we've already attended or already even turned up to wherever we're going. I know I've done this before. I've thought about it so much that once I get there, I've already got this evaluation and I'm completely in my own head about the whole evening. Let's just relax. Take it step by step. A great situation here. Just take the focus of yourself and focus on the environment and the people you are in. And just a little point that I like to put in here is that you always have something to offer. Even if you're speaking in your native language, you don't in your non-native language, which of course with this channel will be English. Even if you make a mistake, don't worry about it. Just offer whatever you want to say. We've all got our own minds and we all think in different ways, and you've always got something to offer that will help you take the focus off yourself. So that's the first suggestion. The second is this: be curious about the other person or the people you are with. Ask questions. Particularly ask unusual questions. Rule of thumb: choose questions that lead to narration and storytelling rather than one-word answers. Instead of "How are you?" or "How was your day?" ask, "What's the most interesting thing that happened to you today? What do you like about the city?" Again, when it says here, particularly asking unusual questions, it's not like who would win in a fight between an elephant and 1,000 chickens. I have to admit, actually, if I was in a social gathering and someone came up to me and said, "Gideon," or, "Excuse me, what's your name? Who do you think would win in a fight between an elephant and 1,000 chickens?" I think I'd like to instantly be friends with that person. So if you ever see me, ask me unusual questions. But, rather than just the "how are you?" or the "how was your day," the problem with those questions is they can often just come back with a one-word answer. Good, fine, okay. Nothing wrong with those questions, but if we are curious about the other person, we can ask extra questions. So if they say, "Oh, my day was good." "Oh, okay, what was the most interesting part of your day?" What do you like about the city? Just be curious. Ask interesting questions about the person you are with, within the realms of social acceptance. You wouldn't want to ask questions that perhaps kind of pry into somebody's personal life. But yeah, just be curious. Ask questions straight away. Don't hold back. And the next point is great for if we are perhaps asked questions. Don't answer questions with one word or one phrase either, especially at the beginning of the conversation. Try to answer with narration and storytelling. Perhaps you can decide that no matter the question, I will at least answer in 3 sentences. How are you? I was having just a horrible day today, but that changed when I stumbled on some song on YouTube, or I stumbled across the GSL-English Podcast on YouTube, and it completely changed my mood. It's like the lyrics were for me. A bit of an in-depth answer there. But, rather than just, how are you? I'm fine, thanks. Actually, I wasn't having a great day, but I feel better now. And just giving a little bit more detail, a little bit more narration. I think that particular example is perhaps a little bit too much. But the idea here, the principle that we want to take away is when we are asked questions, offer a little bit more information. Because when we offer a little bit more information, it gives the person that we are talking to questions to ask. For example, if you were to say, I've had a terrible day, I'm glad it's over. Well, then they can ask the question, I'm sorry, why was it terrible? Rather than just replying with, I'm fine. That kind of ends the conversation. So that's a little goal that we can have, particularly when we're speaking in English as our non-native language. Try and answer questions with more than one word. Try and offer a little bit more information. And the more you can do this, the more you will kind of break away from that default setting of being shy. And then you'll slowly transition into a more conversational person. And there's a great tip here. Try to get conversations towards areas of shared passions and interests. Why? It's hard to be bored when passion is involved. Passion is energizing and contagious. Even if you simply just start talking about your own passion, you'll realize others start talking about theirs as well. The great poem says, when you let your light shine, you give others permission to do the same. And I 100% agree with this. I can listen to somebody talk about anything as long as they are passionate about it. If someone talked to me about rocks, but they had a real passion for rocks, they loved rocks, and they were energized when they talked about rocks, well, I'm going to listen to it because they're passionate. It's something they love. And as it said here, it is contagious, meaning that we kind of catch that passion, and then that might lead us to talk about our passion, or what we are doing, what we are saying. It's really interesting. It says the great poem here, when you let your light shine, you give others permission to do the same. That's such a lovely point. When you talk about your passion, something you love, like you're turning on your light, you're letting your light shine, well, you're giving others permission to do the same, and it might energize them to speak about their passion, and then, well, your conversation is going to fly. And if somebody is talking about their passion, talking about the thing that they love, well, ask them questions about it. Questions are key. The next point is to stop self-censoring. Shy people have a tendency of analysing their thoughts mentally, but not saying anything about what they are thinking because they think no one is interested in that, or they might offend somebody, or they might take it the wrong way. When you censor yourself too much, you'll get to a place where there's nothing you can talk about. If you are interested in something, feel free to talk about it. What matters is the approach. Most people will rather have something to defend or stand up for than be bored. Self-censoring. Censoring ourselves away from talking. Now, of course, there is an element always of self-censorship. We don't say everything that's on our mind, everything that we are thinking. There has to be an element of, censorship as to what we are going to say. But that over self-censorship, where we think that somebody's just not going to be interested in what we have to offer. Nobody's going to be interested in what we have to say. Or we're so unbelievably worried about offending somebody or saying the wrong thing that we do that so much that actually we can't talk at all. We have nothing to talk about because everything we go to say, we censor and we decline it. Well, we want to stop that. Let your personality come out. We all have something to offer. The way you interpret conversations, the way I interpret conversations is different. So we've got something to offer that nobody else has. Stop self-censoring yourself. What you have to say is of interest, even if it isn't always perfectly expressed because you're speaking in your second language or a language you are learning. What you have to say is of interest, and remind yourself of that. And even if you say something a little bit controversial, well, people would much rather have an interesting conversation or a debate or defend something rather than just sit there in silence. So stop censoring yourself out of talking. This next one's interesting. Create good social goals. Set yourself up for success. Step out there. You can only learn to swim by swimming in a pool. So put yourself in the environment that allows you to unlearn shyness and learn self-expression and being comfortable with people. Practice being outspoken by engaging with people in real time as possible. So, phone calls over text and voice notes. Even if it is a 1 to 2 minutes call. Join communities of people with similar interests. Take some responsibilities. You can turn your discomfort zone, your comfort zone, by visiting it frequently. Instead of going to places alone or with other people who are shy, try to tag along with people who are comfortable with people. Watch, emulate, repeat. So it's an interesting point here. Set yourself goals and just get out there. Even if you are shy, we can only overcome our shyness by putting ourselves in situations where we have to talk. So, get out there and just try and talk with people. Practice speaking out loud rather than always defaulting to sending a text message, WhatsApp or a voice note. Have a call with someone. It seems that we're doing that less and less these days, but perhaps if we just started there, phoning people and having a 1 or 2 minute chat rather than just messaging, well, maybe that will be the introduction to us learning to no longer be shy. Tag along with people with you're comfortable with and, watch what they do and not repeat them in the sense of being that person, but kind of learn from them, in the sense they don't think too much about what they are saying. But, set yourself goals, to try and just break away from your comfort zone and just push that shyness away. Now, this last point, I think, is probably, for me, the most important one. Stop labeling yourself a shy person. Perspective matters. Why not say, I'm just a good listener, instead of, I never have something to talk about? And if you are the listener type, then keeping good questions you can ask is good wisdom. Don't only just dress up and make up and consider yourself ready to go out. Think in advance and pick a few questions that you can ask that will get someone you sit by talking. Also, be ready to answer the same questions because you can ask it back to you. And you? Or what about you? Stop labeling yourself as a shy person. I think we tend to do this if we are naturally shy. We go out to social situations having already pre-labeled ourselves as shy, already said to ourselves, well, we'll just draw into the background. We won't be heard. Well, let's try and change that thinking. If we are often shy people are good listeners, and perhaps you are a good listener, and that is a fantastic skill. So rather than just saying, well, I have nothing to talk about, well, no, you're a good listener. Keep asking questions. Get to know people. And also be ready to answer questions back. So, for example, if someone says, hey, how are you? Rather than just saying, I'm fine, thanks. What about you? Or if somebody says, how was your day? Rather than just saying, it was good, it was great. How was your day? But stop pre-labeling yourself as a shy person. Remove that type of thinking. And actually, this is the last point that we're going to share, not that previous one. Finally, you are going to fail sometimes when you try. Be like a baby. When a baby takes their first steps and fall, we don't think, this is horrible, they shouldn't try that again. No. We cheer and celebrate the step and encourage them to do it again, knowing fully well they will fall again. If you can treat this the same way, you are going to walk and run with time. You are the only one who has been stopping yourself and the only one who can continue to stop yourself. What's it going to be? Brilliant illustration there. We are going to fail. You might find that after this you push yourself in social situations, it's going well, and then something happens. Maybe a really embarrassing encounter, or you make a mistake, and it's going to happen. But, just like a baby, if it falls when it's taking its first step, you don't just sit it down for the rest of its life saying, well, you're never going to walk again. Never doing that again. I don't want you to fall. No, they get walking again. They'll fall a few more times. But in time, they'll just get better. It's the same with us. If we are shy, we are going to make mistakes. We're going to fall, mess up from time to time. We'll be in awkward situations. We'll embarrass ourselves. We'll make a fool of ourselves. Just get up and keep on trying. Don't let shyness ruin, social interactions, friendships, or situations. And I do like it that even no matter how shy we are, or going back to the beginning, and for whatever reason we are shy, we can break it. It doesn't define us as a person, just once a shy person, always a shy person. No, not at all. Not at all. Being shy does not define us. And just to say again, this doesn't mean that if you are a more reserved person, you're a listener, this doesn't mean, that you have to be the life of the party, but just let your personality come out. Let who you are be more visible in social settings. Don't let shyness get in the way with that, particularly as a learner of English. Let your personality come out in English just as it does in your native language. So there you go. Just an interesting article I stumbled across, and I thought I really wanted to share that with you because being shy can be such a hindrance. It can be so frustrating, and shy. If you are shy, you kind of beat yourself up over it. But you can overcome it. It takes time. It takes patience, but you've got to put yourself out there a little bit. But there you go. So yeah, thank you so much for watching today. I hope that did make sense, despite me being a tad tired. Of course, I have another podcast coming out on Sunday where we are going back to an interview with a very special guest, actually. I'm really looking forward to releasing this one. You guys are really going to enjoy it, so make sure you stay tuned for that. Keep the comments coming, guys. Had some brilliant comments recently. Absolutely love reading them, and I do try to get back to everybody. So yeah, please always get involved in the comments. And don't forget to give these videos a like, share with your friends, your hamster, your dog, whoever's going to watch it. Because it does help me to continue producing them. But no, just as a final note, if you are a shy person or you just lack a bit of social confidence, you do have something to offer. Everybody has something to offer because we are not robots. We are all individual. You have your own personality to offer. Nobody else has that. So when you think about it, you've got something to offer that nobody else has, and so do I. And that's what makes humans amazing. So if you ever are in that situation where you think, no one's going to be interested in what I'm saying, or I've got nothing interesting to offer, you do. You really do. We all do. Just got to let it come out and be yourself. So there you go. I hope you all have an amazing week. I hope I hope it's not too busy for you. If you're in England, I hope you're not getting too hot because we're having a bit of a heat wave at the moment. But yeah, stay safe, guys, and I'll see you all on Sunday. Have a good one.